I've done some bad things in my life, Nikolai, things I'm not proud of. I promised someone I love very much that I would never go back to being that person. But for you, I'll make an exception.
Those were up, and they did.
We're smart, and my...
He told me enough.
No, I.
Here's Chuck.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review. And this review is going to be for a 2014 action film. And this was one released in September 2014, a month before John Wick. And this was one starring another action star, Denzel Washington, directed by Daniel Facoin. And that film is going to be for none other than 2014's The Equalizer, starring Denzel Washington and directed by Daniel Facoin. So, what's the plot of this movie? Well, Robert McCall is a former special service commando who faked his own death in hopes of living out a quiet life. Instead, he comes out of his self-imposing retirement to save a young girl, and finds his desire for justice reawakened after coming face-to-face with members of a brutal Russian gang. McCall becomes the go-to man when the helpless require the kind of vengeance that would never be found without his skills. So, how's this film made? Well, in June 2010, it was announced that Russell Crowe was trying to bring The Equalizer to the big screen, directed by Paul Haggis, with Crowe intending to play Robert McCall. And in December 2011, it was reported that Denzel Washington would then star in the title role of the film version instead of Russell Crowe, and would be financed by Sony Pictures Entertainment and Escape Artists. Director Antoine Fuqua came on board to direct on March 21st, 2013, reuniting him with Washington after their collaboration in the 2001 film Training Day. Chloe Moretz was even announced as a co-star in May 2013. Then on May 31st, 2013, Melissa Leo was cast in the film, and Leo previously worked with Washington in 2012 film Flight, and with Fuqua in Olympus Has Fallen. Coincidentally, Leo actually guest starred in a season episode of the original Equalizer TV series, which was titled The Defector, in which she portrayed the daughter of a former Soviet agent when Liz McCall's helped to deflect in the United States. And Martin Kosokas was cast to play the villain on May 17th. Then, when it came to filming the movie, principal photography began in May 2013 at various locations through Boston, including Haverhill, Hamilton, Ipswich, and Swampscott, and then filming wrapped on September 2013. So after the film was shot and marketed, the film The Equalizer would go on to have its world premiere at the 2014 Toronto International Film Festival on September 7th, 2014, and would go on to be released into theaters worldwide on September 26, 2014. And when it came to the reactions from critics, the film got mixed to positive reactions from critics. And it managed to gross a decent profit of $192 million worldwide at the box office. So it got a sequel called Equalizer 2 in 2018, and recently the Equalizer 3 in this weekend, on Labor Day weekend. Now, as for my reaction to this movie, well, I remember first seeing this movie when it came to home media back in 11th grade, and I thought it was decently good, but not a great movie per se. However, I watched this movie recently, and now I will say that I found it way better the second time around. Yeah, I'm not the craziest Denzel Washington fan, but I have seen two of his films I liked, which were Man on Fire and Two Guns. Those are the only two of his I remember seeing. I haven't seen anything else he's done. This movie, though, definitely one of his best performances, and it was honestly a good comeback to the action genre for him. An intense and towering performance from Denzel Washington as one of cinema's best acted action heroes is what makes The Equalizer stand out from the crowd. Well, technically it's not as good as John Wick, but this is close. This would be second. for action films of 2014, non-superhero action films. And as a film, it's very decent thriller. It's definitely a big screen version of the 80s TV series with Edward Woodward. Think of it as your usual vigilante movie and you'll be closer. The movie has many things going for it in my opinion. The main character is not a typical action hero. He has heart, he's selfless, he's probably what a lot of people wish they could be, a hero to others. The fact he takes the time to know everyone, help everyone, it just makes you feel good and root for him that much more. And this movie made me feel happy. Happy that justice exists, at least in the films. It definitely gives the viewer a break from the harsh realities of life, especially in today's world, and how helpless we are when it comes to crime syndicates. I definitely enjoyed this movie more than I expected, particularly the music, which definitely seemed very dark and appropriate. Let's be honest here, the plot in The Equalizer is definitely nothing special. And the Russian mob make for cliched villains. It's the execution where the film excels. It's not an action-filled movie, but when the action hits, it's hard and heavy. Not shying away from crowd-pleasing violence meted out to the villains. The extended set-piece ending might be described as kind of like Die Hard and Bart in B&Q, and loses the realism a little, but until that point, though, this is tough and gritty filmmaking. And director Fuqua definitely, accordingly, really brings on the style for these sequences, as relative quiet touches give way to mayhem. And before every murder Mikkel commits, the camera slows down, takes on a global hue, and you literally see Mikkel breaking down every element of his victims, tattoos, facial expressions, and then he lets loose, even finding himself to see if he can voice dispatch mafiosi in 30 seconds or less. And Equalizer is undeniably fun as well. It's definitely one of those stories that begins moody and atmospheric, and then it decides it would be more fun to see how many people can be dispatched with nail guns or corkscrew openers. And it's similarly unconcerned about logic in the idea that Mikkel decides to take down the entire East Coast hub of the Russian mafia simply over one teenage prostitute, but with Fuqua, this stylistically assured, and Washington equally game doesn't really matter. and Chloe Moretz in this movie as Terry surprisingly does forego the sarcastic strategy that was done in Taxi Driver with Jodie Foster's character. Terry is arguably much more frightened of her violent handlers and is less given to false bravado as a result, even though her character really amounts to little more than a glorified supporting part after she's sent away. She's definitely still a great deal of fun to watch. She holds her own more than capably against Denzel Washington, and the habit of extended cameos in The Equalizer is even more extreme in the case of Melissa Leo as Robert's former CIA contact, who pops up to give a vile piece of information of an evil mobster, and attentively tiptoe around the subject of his wife while offering a small measure of comfort. The bit part parade reaches the blink and you'll miss him cameo status by casting a reputable star like Bill Pullman as Leo's husband and giving him no more than 4 lines. And the action sequences, while, yeah, they're not as flashy as John Wick's action sequences, they're delivered with more meaning. Though, The Equalizer definitely took care to mind the pacing and rhythm of the story, interweaving action and downtime for plot and character developments. Well, technically John Wick did it somewhat better, though, because they're both, the thing is, the reason I compare them is because they're 2 action films that came out in fall 2014, just a month apart from each other. The thing is, just John Wick felt more epic. John Wick felt better developed as a character and stuff, and his tragedy was definitely more developed. You actually kind of see his tragedy here, and it actually kicks off the action here. The Equalizer kind of takes a little more time to get to that stuff. The storytelling was although the storytelling was definitely direct enough to not be confusing, but left enough to the imagination to avoid being boring. Like, it was, for example, it was never spelled out what Washington's character did for a living prior to working at the hardware store, because when we first meet his character, he's definitely working at a hardware store during the daytime, even helping a trained security guard lose enough weight to be able to get into the security guard training program. And then once his shift ends, he then goes to a diner to have a cup of tea, and he meets Terry. And then, of course, one night, after a customer complains about Terry's services, Terry then gets the crap beat out of her and is sent to the hospital. Mikhail tries to buy her freedom, but they refuse to allow that, and so that kicks off his rampage revenge. Right here. That's how it pretty much goes. There's also some interesting MacGyver-esque being resourceful with your environment elements to the action that was refreshing in comparison to the heaps of cliche action films where gunplay and martial arts are the only vehicles for kills. And the cinematography is flawless and ventured into some creative shots and techniques. And the big climatic ending entailed some dazzling filming involving some artful use of lighting and rain. And that film work alone is worth the watch. Alright. And we find out, and Robert McCall's tragedy here is, after a car bomb nearly claimed his life while working for an inscrutable government outfit, Robert McCall retired to the relatively obscurity of Boston, Massachusetts, and everyone knows him as a jovial, hard-working mega home art store employee. McCall prefers to immerse himself in a good novel at a nearby diner that artist Edward Hopper could easily have immortalized on canvas, and McCall just lives a simple life without anybody to clutter it up. Then he befriends Terry, hangs out at the same diner where he reads. Terry's not. The thing is, though, Terry's actually a hooker, not a conventional hooker, but a prostitute who actually works for the Russian mafia. And she offends these brutal dastards that possess all the subtlety of grizzly bears, gets beat up and sent to the local hospital. Mikhail decides to retaliate. He dispatches 5 tough guys as easily as if they were stopping cockroaches. Before he goes to the action, though, he sets the stopwatch and then checks it afterward once he finished with his kills. When he is intervening on Terry's behalf, Mikhail helps an obese Hispanic coworker named Ralphie achieve his dream of becoming a security guard. And usually Ralphie eats all the wrong foods and lacks discipline until Mikhail coaches him and transforms the affable oaf. And when Ralphie has to quit his homework job to help out his mother, who is being preyed on at a restaurant by corrupt Boston cops, Mikhail not only helps him clean up the store, but also straightens out the dirty detectives who are extorting cash from her as well as other business owners. So, it's not just a quick revenge story. It's him literally becoming this vigilante and helping out the whole town and stuff. So I liked it was more than just some typical revenge film. It was about him undoing all the other wrong deeds going on around town, and finally slowly getting back to his old life. And naturally, since Boquan wants to feel sympathetic towards Mikhail, they pit him against the most psychopathic mob enforcer on the planet, which is Teddy, who appears to be a fashionist, dapper, and inoffensive fellow who utterly teaches syllable of each word with hopelessly precise clarity. When he arrives in Boston, the local corrupt cops treat him as if he were a sissy, and it doesn't take them long to learn that he is far from effeminate. And Teddy behaves like an efficiency expert as he launches his investigation to see who has the odyssey to kill 5 members of his mob, and Boston detective Master escorts him to a rendezvous with the local Irish mob boss, Little John Looney, who displays nothing but contempt for the Russians. And by the time Teddy has smashed Little John to a bloody pulp, Masters has the gun to draw both of Looney's heavily armed henchmen, and Teddy scrutinizes anybody who enters the bar where the 5 Russian gangsters died, and kills at least one person who lies to him about the people involved in the incident. And he figures out by studying surveillance footage that Robert McCall is the most likely suspect. As ruthlessly merciless as he is, Teddy isn't prepared to tangle with a man like McCall who's far more merciless. And of course, Steven, and that friend that was visiting Terry at the hospital that kind of told McCall about the whole incident, he finds her, he strangles her to death in a really disturbing death, and he actually kills her. It's like that. And Denzel Washington even brings immersed dignity and presence to his portrayal of a man whose disciplined routine and personal qualities immediately hinted someone who may have had a military background. Even for his skill in dealing with slapping and his gayness scene, it transpires that he actually be a CIA operative who, after experiencing some traumatic events, had escaped from the job by faking his own death and keeping a low profile by living his current modest lifestyle. His insomnia is a legacy of the trauma he had experienced and emptiness that, as a widower, is constantly with them. And McCall is a character full of contradictions and illogicalities, but he is so well drawn and well played by Washington that all the illogicalities made sense by the end of the film. And Washington is aided by very good performances from the rest of the cast. Morenza's underage hooker adds another warfall entry to his TV, and it's good to see Martin Casalvas getting to play a truly memorable primary character in the part of mob enforcer Teddy. And surprisingly, the film is definitely a lot more violent than I remembered. It's somewhat gratuitously violent. Like the beloved 80s action flicks that used to glamorize excessive blood and gore, films like RoboCop and Cobra, Die Hard, the Rambo films. There's like many scenes of Denzel using various tools from his store to brutally murder bad guys. Like off screen, when a mugger comes to his shop and steals one of his coworkers' rings, he pretty much goes after the guy, gets borrows one of the hammers that's on sale, and we can tell he kind of killed the guy with the hammer, likely bashed his head in off screen, but the thing is we should have saw that happen, but we'll get to that part later. Then after that, he returns with the hammer, puts it back, and it turns out he actually managed to reclaim the ring and the stolen money. Right there. So if you don't have a problem with excessive blood and gore, and enjoy movies full of it, you'll probably love this movie. I definitely enjoy it quite a bit, but this is the type of action movie I always used to like in the 80s. And Denzel's great in the film, and Fuqua does some awesome stylized directing, and it's all action and no substance. And it's thankfully not overly like a Taken ripoff or like the Taken sequels that just take the stupidest ideas and make them actually shit and have no action or tension in them. Like, Luc Besson wishes the Taken movies were this and the John Wick films. He clearly wishes the Taken sequels were the John Wick sequels. Antoine Fuqua really knows how to mingle a magnificent action movie. It's action-packed, it's stylized, has cool shots throughout the film, and Denzel Washington really is like a modern-day stylized superhero. And he even wears the same type of shirt throughout the movie. I don't know if some likely even noticed that, but it might as well just be a superhero costume, just a normal outfit. Right there, not some done suit. Like, this is not like superhero films at all. This is just a normal vigilante film, and I actually like that. And the finale, too, is epic. How the finale goes. Alright. Robert tracks Masters down and threatens him into helping take down one of Pushkin's money laundering warehouses. Masters and Pushkin's men are taken into custody when the police arrive. They find no lift by Robert to follow the money. He confronts Nikolai again, who threatens to do more damage if he continues to pursue him. Then later destroys two of Pushkin's oil tankers in response. And in response to that, Nikolai abducts Robert's co-workers at the hardware store to force him to meet. To Nikolai's surprise, Robert skips the meeting with Nikolai and instead kills the men guarding the hostages. Nikolai arrives with his men when Robert kills them one by one and improvised weapons collected through the hardware store. As Nikolai is about to kill Ralphie, who stayed behind to help, Robert kills him with a nail gun. So yeah, I really like that whole epic scene right here. That's easily the best action scene in the film. The warehouse scene, from start to finish, is great. Robert takes on the Russian mafia thugs in the warehouse, destroys some things in the warehouse, and then the sprinklers go off. And he's using weapons to brutally kill them all. Still one of the best action scenes of the 2010s. No doubt. Then after he saves his coworkers and kills that other guy kills Nikolai with a nail gun, Robert of course knows he still has to take care of Pushkin. So the Russian mafia is not over yet. So Robert travels to Moscow, and within 3 days later, Robert finds Pushkin at his mansion in Moscow and kills all of his guards. And then he meets up with Pushkin, who's taking a bath, and he tricks Pushkin into electrocuting himself to death. And then he just silently leaves as Pushkin is suffering his doom. Then another sometime later, Terrier Alina, who's actually her real name, recovers from the hospital, and she runs into Robert one more time. She then thanks Robert for the money he left her, describing how she started a new life, and it's right. And then they pretty much depart ways for good. And Robert McCall, ever since that whole week, has been inspired to continue helping others, and now posts online ads to help others as the Equalizer. And that's how the film ends right there. Robert's now back to his old life for actually doing the good ways of helping people this time. And now has branded himself the Equalizer right there. So it's a great way how it ends. Robert has destroyed Pushkin and his empire, has destroyed most of the Russian mafia, and Alina now has a proper life to live now. And Robert is back to helping others again, and donning himself as the Equalizer. So, it's definitely a terrific ending right there. But despite all the good I've just said, not every movie is perfect without a criticism. So if I do have a criticism for this movie, it's this. I feel like the movie is like 132 minutes long. If it could have been trimmed down like 12 minutes, I wouldn't have minded that. And the villains could have been fished out a little better. They come off as just typical foreign villains we've seen to death before, so it's nothing too surprising. And by shorter, yeah, I mean like 120 minutes long max. I don't care about the stuff with Robert and the security trainee. I mean, Robert and Ralphie. That just kind of felt useless to the plot, and it doesn't really go anywhere. Because because we know he has to kind of quit anyway. He has to kind of quit anyway after two guys ruin that and pretty much go stealing money from his mom's restaurants. But thankfully Robert stops those two guys and returns the money. And I also do wish the mugger that stole his coworker's ring in one scene, we got to see his head being bashed. I wish we got to show his death on screen. Because I kind of hate we never see what happens. And I do wish Pushkin suffered a more agonizing death on camera instead of just cutting away from his electrocution as well. So I feel like Pushkin's death just wasn't really all that satisfying. However, those two qualities don't wreck the movie for me at all, and I'll still always enjoy The Equalizer. So in the end, The Equalizer is worth a watch and buy for those that love the series, those who have seen the series and maybe have also seen the series, unlike me, and are huge Denzel Washington fans and want to see him in a gritty action film again. Anyways, that's it for my review of The Equalizer. Warning, how I'm going to rank The Equalizer. Here's how I'm going to rate this movie. So overall, if you love action movies with Denzel Washington or want to see a reboot of a series done right, then I totally recommend watching and buying this movie, no doubt. And if we're wondering how I'm going to rank The Equalizer, I'm going to give The Equalizer an obvious 8 out of 10. There we go. That wraps up my review for The Exorcist. That wraps up my review for The Equalizer. Can't speak clearly. But, yeah. The reviews for Equalizer 2 and 3 will come out, and I did see the Equalizer 3 Thursday night previews, and I thought it was definitely a decent movie. You'll find out more in that review, but when I filmed that review, yeah. So, Equalizer 2 will be the next review. And, yeah, but until then, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank y'all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.